Once we understand the basics of these four types, as a leader, we can bring out the best in our people. So we know that if we've got a C in our team, they're the ones who can do the research. They will revel in the chance to drill down and find more data for the team. The I is going to be the ideas person. I've got a great idea. Oh, we could do this and we could do that. We could do this even bigger. The D, they're the ones who are going to get things done. Come on, deadline, let's get on with it. And the S's, of course, are putting their arms around everybody. Come on, it's all right, we'll get there. As a team leader, if you understand your people, you can deal with them in the way they like to be dealt with.
Hello and welcome to the Manage Self-Lead Others podcast. It's for experienced and aspiring people managers. I'm your host, Nina Sunday. This is the show that helps you explore ways to become the best version of yourself as a manager. And each episode you'll hear from one of the brightest business minds on the planet who shares your passion to elevate and transform team culture. Together we can make workplace culture better. Are you ready? Because it's time to manage self-lead others. Lindsay Adams is the relationships guy. His focus is on business relationship building strategies to underpin sales, enhance teams, and create outstanding leaders. Lindsay Adams is able to identify what motivates people. A past national president of Professional Speakers Australia and former president of the Global Speakers Federation, he was awarded a medal in the Order of Australia in January 2020, Australia Day Honours, for his service to the professional speaking industry. A big welcome to my friend, Lindsay Adams. Today we'll discuss the finer points of using the DiSC profile to better understand colleagues and clients. The reason we're talking today, Lindsay, is you're an expert in relationships, but you also are an expert in all the multiple profiles. But the one that I'm most familiar with is the DiSC profile. And I am, having read people like Ray Dalio's it's got it here, Principles, Life and Work. He talks about the importance of doing a Myers-Briggs type profile with his people so you can predict how people will execute a task. I actually favor the DiSC profile because it's only 4 styles and it's quick and easy, and you can identify clients, you can identify colleagues without labeling them or putting them in a box. So I guess today is about that whole concept of how important is it that a manager of a team understands just to choose a profile and get it done so they can see the patterns of behaviour both in themselves and in their people. So you probably have some thoughts around that, Lindsay.
No, I sure do. I'm accredited in numerous behavioural assessment tools. A lot of people call them personality profiles. That's actually a misnomer, but let's not go there. It's more about behaviours than personalities. And I love the DiSC assessment because it is, well, one, it's the world's most popular online assessment, but 2, it is the easiest to understand and the easiest to implement. Yeah. Now, you mentioned the Myers-Briggs type indicator, brilliant tool. That was the first thing I was accredited back in 1995, a long time ago. And here's the problem with MBTI. I'll shorten it, Myers-Briggs type indicator, MBTI. It's a 16-fold model. And it's so complicated. And when you say to people, oh, have you done MBTI? Yes, I have. Oh, what's your 4-letter combination? Oh, I'm INTZ. Sorry, Z doesn't even come into it. Oh, really? Oh, okay, well, I'm an IN. Well, what does that mean? Oh, I can't remember. It's too complex.
Whereas I've had exactly the same experience with people.
With DiSC, D, dominant, I, influencer, S, steady, C, conscientious, boom, you're done. And the beauty of DiSC is the behaviours that we exhibit are readily observable, and you can place those behaviours into one of the 4 quadrants of DiSC. Now, we all have a preference. So we have a major preference. I'm a high I, but I'm an IS combination, okay? And so you're not just one, you're a combination of 1 or 2 or sometimes 3. Yeah. And there are even people who I call all-rounders. They sort of score really evenly across the whole 4 quadrants. And so you're going back to your question, why, why do we need to know? Well, for a manager, a leader, a team member, or even a salesperson, understanding behaviors is the key to success. Now, I'm known around the world as the relationships guy. Now, relationships underpin pretty much everything that we do in the world. Want to be a leader, got to be in relationship with your team. Want to work in a team, got to be in relationship with your team members. Want to be a salesperson, got to get into relationship with your prospect or customer. Okay, how do we do that? We do it by matching or modeling the behaviors of the other person. So we be a little bit like them. We don't change our behavior totally, but we be a little bit like them. And you know what? They like us because we're alike. And so once we understand the DiSC model, it's so easy to quickly picture where the person might fit, and then we can be a little like them. So, let's just run through the 4 quadrants quickly,
Right,
so that people who are listening understand. So the Ds, they're very goal-driven. They like to get things done, make things happen.
D is for dominance, right?
D for dominant, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, it's not dominant as in I want to be in charge, but it is, because the Ds love to take charge. If there's no assigned leader, they will take charge. And so they love to make things happen, want to get things done, decide and do, make a decision, let's get on with it. Now, the Is, they love the world of big picture and ideas, the world of possibilities. They're great at starting stuff, not always good at finishing stuff. And a high I who's clever, and I know you're clever, often has an assistant or someone else to help to finish off the things that they don't have the time to do. Now, the S, they're the steady. These are the salt of the earth people. They're with you through thick and thin. They love supporting other people. I often describe them as the aunt or the uncle in the team, because people go to them for help and support.
The calm within the storm. They're the anchor. Yeah.
Correct. And with a D and an I, you can read their face. You know exactly what's going on. The D, get on with it. The I, I'm so happy. The S,
bit poker
unemotional.
Yes, because sometimes you can't read what an S is thinking, but the minute you override them, you go a little bit too far across their boundary. That's when they might actually, I won't say explode, but they have to blurt out. Sometimes they hold it in, and it's only when they get a little bit angry that they actually blurt out what they really think.
Correct.
And then they go back to being nice again.
Correct. Now, let's jump on the C, the conscientious, the last one. These are the detail people. If they were a carpenter, measure twice, cut once. They love detail. They love structure. They love rigor. They're the spreadsheet people. Now, they love to ask questions, and they will never decide anything in a hurry. And in fact, if you're a salesperson and you're dealing with a C, you will never get a sale out of them at the first meeting. Once we understand the basics of these 4 types, as a leader, we can bring out the best in our people. So we know that if we've got a C in our team, they're the ones who can do the research, and they will revel. They will revel in the chance to drill down and find more data for the team. The I is going to be the ideas person, because I've got a great idea, and we could do this and we could do that. We could do this even bigger. The D, they're the ones who are going to get things done. Come on, deadline, let's get on with it. And the S's, of course, are putting their arms around everybody. Come on, it's all right, we'll get there. Don't worry about that Nina. She doesn't, she didn't mean it like that. And so as a team leader, if you understand your people, you can deal with them in the way they like to be dealt with. You can delegate tasks to them in the way they like to receive the task. And if you're clever, you can give them the stuff they don't like doing, but you can make it a challenge for them. So you could go to your I and say, Lindsay, now look, I know detail is not your big strength. However, this would look really good on your resume if you could show that you have done blah, blah, blah. So I want you to have a go at this task. Now I'm going to check in with you and see how you're going on a regular basis. In fact, I'm going to check in on Friday and on Wednesday and on whatever. And see, here's the thing. Once the I knows that there's a deadline they have to meet, they will meet it.
That's right.
They might be doing the report at midnight the night before, but they will have it ready if there's a deadline. And so, again, as a leader, if you understand these simple facts, you can manage your people so much better. And you can bring them all along together in the way that they like to be brought along.
So, Lindsay, how common is it for leaders, managers, probably middle managers, really, but even senior leaders as well, are just bumbling along in their own style and not even thinking about what are the styles of their people, and is that how bad an error is that?
Oh, it's a big error, and oftentimes a lot of people do. They issue commands in the way they like to do a task. A D, Nina, I need this done. I need it by 4 o'clock. Make it happen.
But if they're given that instruction, they go, yes, I can do that. Whereas you do that to an S, how do they react?
Exactly. They're going to go, but, and being the S, of course, non-emotional, remember, they'll sit and listen and they'll be quietly seething, going, I haven't got a clue how I'm going to do this, and what am I going to do? I'll have to go and yes, boss, I'll get that done for you. And so again, if we delegate in the way we like to receive tasks all the time, we're going to offend our people, or we may just find that things don't get done.
And also, I think we have to be so mindful if we are a particular style and we are the leader, like the high C, the high compliance, conscientious leader. What are their pitfalls? They could start to micromanage their people.
Oh, yeah.
Tell them how it should be done.
Yeah, so they're the ones who'll say, now, I just want to go over this plan, and 30 minutes later, they're still, drilling down. Everyone's nodding off, going to sleep, because they love the detail. And so it's about trying to tune in and get that right balance. Now, as a leader, I can hear you listeners saying, hang on a sec, I've got 10 people in my team. I've probably got one of each of them. What am I going to do? So here's the thing. As a leader, the Ds are going to catch on the quickest. You're going to get the Ds excited because they'll come on board first. And then the Is will follow, then the S, and then the C. And so you've got to throw out some exciting stuff first. So throw out the line, hook the D, hook the I, and then start drilling down into the detail. And for the S's, it's about what's in this for the team and how will the team benefit. And then for the C's, it's the detail. What's the cost? What's the time frame? What's the process? What's the procedure?
And I suppose the challenge would be, if you're a high D and you're after quick results, is that the high C, the compliance, conscientious team member, might be looking for the pitfalls and the dangers, which the dominance, the direct person doesn't want to know about. It's like, we just got to move forward.
Make it happen.
So there's a happy medium, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. And so again, it comes down to, if you know and understand this enough, then it can be your kind of guiding light, it makes such a difference. Now, I've coached a lot of executives. So real life example, I coached a general manager of a hospital group here in Brisbane, and I did a DiSC assessment on him, and he went, wow, this is really interesting. And I was able to tell him so much about himself simply by looking at his graphs, his results, his scores. And he went, this is incredible. He said, could we do this with my executive? I said, well, of course we could. And so once we did it with the executive, he had a much better handle on how to deal with the people. And there was one particular woman on his team who he really struggled with, and they were polar opposites. And of course, once I helped him understand how to manage her, it made it so much easier for them to work together. Now, following on from that, of course, each of the executives then went, wow, this is really neat. And suddenly we did the whole filtered thing through the whole organization.
You become more tolerant then of their particular quirk if it's within that behavioral preference pattern. Correct. Because you understand the pattern. I certainly became far more tolerant of high Cs that used to... Look, there was a woman in my office. Every day at lunchtime, she was ringing up a different superannuation company and asking the same set of questions. And of course, she's just in the next cubicle, so I could hear every word. I'm going, will she make a decision someday, please? But I just knew she was a high C, so I accepted it.
And so, yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? It's about acceptance. And, one of the biggest frustration for managers is is when someone doesn't do it the way they wanted it done. And it's because we're all different.
Yes.
You know, even Nina, you're a high I, I'm a high I can guarantee we will still approach things differently, even though we are similar, we're not the same.
Because my secondary style is different to yours.
So
Because
you're
you gave me the gift of your looking at your profile, which is nice. But I'm happy to share the fact that my secondary is D, and my third is C. I think I've learnt to be more detail oriented. I'm thinking now about the makeup of a team. What about a team? Perhaps the leader recruited just in their own style, and there might be one style missing. Have you come across that scenario?
So if you have a team and there's one missing, and that often happens, yes, we do tend to recruit people like ourselves. That's very common. And so if someone's missing, what do? Well, you can either, if you're aware of that, you can say, okay, now team, we're missing out on a high C in our team. Let's just go with the C example. So who's going to take up the role of the detail person? Who's going to be the checker? Who's going to keep us on track for process and procedure? And you can allocate that role to someone within the team. Or you might say, gee whiz, it's that bad, we need to recruit someone. You know, if something's missing, there's always a way of covering it. You can certainly live without it. However, you've got to be mindful that sometimes you may drop the ball if that's not present. And so you've got to make sure you're covering off.
Well, I remember delivering a debrief to an IT team of 30 people. There was only one influencer, and they were complaining about their clients that they were serving, wanting them to do stuff for them. And it's like, and then we shouldn't have to teach them either. It's like, hang on, if you were an I, had more I or S in you, you'd go, we're here to serve the people. And if we can't do it for them, we have to educate them how to do it. They would accept that responsibility. But no, it's not our job.
So it's interesting in terms of IT. I've done a lot of work with DiSC, and we create employment benchmarks now. So we've got a whole bunch of data because there's thousands and thousands of these profiles being done. We can now tell you what's the perfect profile for an IT manager, for an IT specialist, for a real estate salesperson, or whatever. We've got the data, and so we can tell you the ideal DiSC profile, which you can then recruit against.
That's good.
And so, of course, IT, they're going to be heavily C and D based, or C and S based. So they're confused. They think the machine is their client. It's actually the person using the machine.
Exactly. Well, that's something I had to try and share with them, but they have to be open to that concept.
Yeah. So get this, with the benchmarking, another real life story. I was working with a company in the Philippines, and they have a couple of hundred staff in a call center, and all of the staff work for an Australian company. So you're familiar with the offshoring model.
Yes.
They had 30 accountants on staff. They all worked for accounting firms in Australia, and they were struggling recruiting the right people. And so what we did, I said, do you know who your test 10 best performing accountants are? And they said, oh, yeah. I said, great. So we did a DiSC assessment on them, and we created a benchmark for accountants in that firm. We knew who their best performing staff were. So we created the perfect DiSC assessment. Then we put an ad in Philippine Seek. There is no such thing, but in
the
their
equivalent of the
thing,
we'd
get
job website. Yes.
We would shortlist using the usual manner. Then we'd get down to say 10 or 20, and then we would run an assessment on each of them. And then we go, there's a match for the benchmark. We'll interview them. That one doesn't quite match. We'll put that aside for a moment. There's a match. We'll interview them. Well, there's another one. We're not sure. Put that aside. There's a match. And so we interviewed the matches first, and we knew that their behavioral set matched the top performer. So then that was the scientific part. Then we had to interview for the behavioral stuff, for the emotional stuff. So all of the emotional stuff. And that really tuned up their recruitment. We reduced their turnover significantly, and they had high performers right from the get-go. So it's an interesting concept, this whole benchmarking. It's amazing what you can do with DiSC now.
Well, I remember I had another group that I was doing a DiSC profile with, where they were concierges at a big shopping centre, but they were being asked to sell the gift card. The high S's only wanted to help, and all they saw was that they were being asked to
Being a
take
pest.
money out of the wallet of their customers. And I was able to say, well, if someone's coming to buy a gift and they don't know where to go, doesn't it help them by suggesting a gift card enables their recipient to choose their gift? Wouldn't they be happy? And then I noticed that with the high Ds, the dominants and the directs, they weren't that touchy-feely. They weren't that patient with people that, I'm here for something. I don't quite know where I'm going. And it was the high S's and the high I's that really stood out in terms of it coming from within, that internalized customer service.
Yeah, and that makes such a difference, doesn't it? So, in terms of recruitment, once you understand that, again, you can tune in to the better hire. I mean, look, we can all adapt. So, when I said I worked in the tax office, I used to be an auditor. I'm not an auditor. I'm a people person. And so I went sideways out of audit into training. I loved it. I found my place.
We've been sort of working in this field together for a little while, collaborating for a little while. Bottom line, every manager should make sure that there's a profile of some sort, whatever is your preference, of your team members, and that all the team members know the preference of their colleagues. Is that right? Is that what we're urging people to think about?
Absolutely. I think it really comes down to, it creates better understanding, it creates better communication, it creates better outcomes for the team. And so if we have a common language, a common understanding of each other, I couldn't tell you the number of times I've spoken to a manager and they go, oh, I've got this problem child, I don't know what to do with them. And I go, right, let's have a look at their profile. We'll do one on you and one on them. And we can do these amazing collaboration reports.
Right.
Which you use with your clients, I know, where you compare one against the other, and it gives you so much data. And then, they have this blinding flash of the obvious. Oh, now I know why this person bugs the hell out of me. Now I have a recipe for working with them. And that's the key. It's about working better together. See, we don't have to be best friends with everyone we work with. We just have to have a formula or a methodology to work together.
Absolutely, because especially if you can do that comparison or collaboration report, you'll find out that someone is a bit more patient than you, and you might be more driven, or they might be more accommodating, whereas you're a little bit more strong-willed. If you understand that difference, you can usually find a meeting point.
Yeah,
is that right?
And the other thing with the DiSC, of course, is you can do the team summary report, which gives you a lovely summary of everyone in the team, and just a page or two of data on each. And for a leader or a manager, when you've got that summary report in your hand, you can go, oh, hang on a sec, let me just refresh my memory about Nina. Oh, yeah, that's it. You got it. Now I know, and go into the meeting prepared with that little refresher note. There is so much great reporting that we can, that comes with the assessments once you have the data. So if you've got the data on your team, you can run all these reports, it's gold.
Yeah. Is there any book on DiSC that you've ever read, or?
In fact, Nina, that's a really good question. I am about to release a book called Why Do People Act Like That?
That's fantastic, by Lindsay Adams. Well, Lindsay, look, we could talk about this all day, but we can't. Thank you so much for your feedback and your perspective on this. It's and honestly, it's so good to speak with somebody who shares my passion for DiSC, and you obviously have that in spades, because now you're issuing a book on it. So I hope it goes very well for you.
Stay tuned. Thanks, Nina.
Will do. Thank you, Lindsay. All the best. This episode, we've been speaking with Lindsay Adams on the Manage Self Lead Others podcast for experienced and emerging people managers. I'm your host, Nina Sunday. And if you're curious to team, contact me, Nina Sunday, at brainpowertraining.com.au. We'll send you a sample report, around 40 pages, pricing options, and how to access the online questionnaire. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.